Hi, Dan here again with Route 2 Powersports, and today we're going to talk about an important subject: handlebars. No, not that kind of handlebar, this kind of handlebar. Everybody needs them. Your ATV, UTV, dirt bike, and we're going to tell you how they're made, what kind of materials, finish, accessories, so you can select the right handlebar for your ride. Nowadays, the go-to source for everything is Amazon.com. So we're going to show you how to select the right handlebar for your ride. We are searching for dirt bike handlebars on Amazon.com. So let's type in the keyword not dirt bike by price, dirt bike handlebars. Hey, look, it's so smart. It already knew what I was looking for. And here we go. Here's a bunch of dirt bike handlebars. One of the first things we need to make sure is the dimensions. You want to check, first of all, if you want to try to match what you had or change a little bit the height or rise or the sweep or pullback they call it. You should look for a handlebar that shows, here, these guys are really showing you right away the dimensions, except I don't think this is a very clear one. Let's look at it one more. I think most of these guys show, here's one here. Yeah, I saw this one on another search yesterday. This has a really good in inches and millimeters. It says millimeters and in millimeters are really clear. So anyway, it gives you dimensions everywhere, height, rise. Here's the center mounting point. Everything's on there. So check your dimensions, and remember, check the diameter of the handlebars. Typically 7/8 inch, but a fat bar would be 1 1/8 inch. Okay, so when you're looking to select the right handlebar for you, if you want to upgrade or replace your existing handlebars, a couple of things you want to check. First of all, we talked about preference, right? Preference in your position, how you ride your bike, how you keep your hands and your arms. So this will determine a lot about the height of the rise. Also, some people like to cut down the total width of their handlebar, especially if you're driving through the woods or through deep bush or brush. So that's something to consider, and we'll go into some features here to show you about cutting. Also, the pullback, which is the angle when you're sitting on your bike that you're pulled back this way. Again, the angle back. So another thing to check: larger bikes, generally the mounting for the steering, for the handlebar, is a 1 1/8 inch diameter. So that would be what they call a fat bar. This area is 1 1/8 inch versus a standard 7/8 inch. So you should check that first. What is your bike? What kind of diameter do you have in the mounting position? Most, if not all, bikes end up at 7/8 inch on the outside, where your grips and where your throttles go. But there is a difference in fat bars where you have the fatter center diameter. Another thing to check, let's check overall dimensions. You have existing handlebar, for example, like this one. You want to go a little bit higher. You decide you want a more comfortable position, you want to raise the height. So how do you check the dimensions? Let's look at it. First of all, you should line up your handlebar on a table. Take it off your bike, line it up on a table. If you have markings like this, some handlebars have, some don't. These markings here are for angle. Try to get it at the 0 here, pointing straight up, and then measure from the table to the bottom. You can see here, to the bottom. Let's get it flat here. To the bottom of the handlebar here. So, and you should measure it actually at the edge, so you know your total height of the rise. So you can see this one here, we are around, let's say, 10, a little bit less than 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters, just under 4 inches, versus this one, we are much higher. We are at almost 6 inches here. I can't really see it from behind here, but you can see there's a big difference in the height. So that's checking the height of the rise. Other thing you want to check is the pullback. Pullback, you take your handlebar, lay it down on the table, face forward, the part that's facing away from the rider, face forward, and then measure from the table surface to the bottom of the handlebar here. Then you get your pullback angle. So you can see again difference in the pullback angle here. Are you guys able to see it here? So that's pullback or sweep. There's different words for it. And then lastly is total width. The handlebar you just measure from tip to tip. And generally, handlebars are generally for a dirt bike around 800 to 804 millimeters, which is around 31 3/4 inches roughly. Before cutting, some people, like I said, some people like to cut them down. And as I mentioned, there are markings for angle on some brands. Some don't have it. We mentioned you should really search for is markings. Noticed here we selected a few. See, this handlebar here has these markings on the end. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is to help you cut down, if you want to cut down the total width of your handlebar, especially if you're driving in the brush. And also some of these guys, I see this guy has a nice scale here. This is to help you set the tilt angle of your handlebar. So these guys have it, and I noticed plenty of others don't. These have no markings, but also they don't have a lot of photos anyway. This one has a lot of photos, but still no markings. They do have this. Nope, just their logo in the middle. So try to find with markings, makes it easier. Okay, and another thing we're looking for, recommend something with these kind of markings. These markings here on the end of the handlebar, on both ends, see these markings here? This is a reference for you to cut the total width of your handlebar down, especially if you're driving off-road, riding off-road in the brush. So reduce your width and you're not going to get snagged on a branch or a tree. There's plenty of them out there that have no markings. So try to find one with markings. Makes your life easier to adjust your bike to your preference. If you ever want to add hand guards, you should look for a model that has this threaded, this is showing a picture here and then this diagram, threaded ends on the handlebars. Allows you to add full hand guards. See, for example, these guys have a nice picture, but they do not have threading on the ends, so you cannot do these threaded full hand guard mounts. And one more variation on the handlebar theme here. Some handlebars have a threaded, a tapped end here. You see the threads? That thread is for a bolt that goes in like this. And what's that for? Actually, there's a few purposes. One is potentially to mount a handguard set, like this here. The handguard just bolts in on the end of the handlebar. Other purpose of this bolt, actually, this is a weighted bolt, and it can help reduce vibration in the handlebar, which will reduce fatigue over long-term riding. What's a handguard? It's something that guards your hands. It's very clear, very simple. And there's generally two kinds of handguards. And what does it guard your hands from? Let's go back to that. Especially if you're riding in the brush or through the woods, you know, it's very possible you hit some branches going by or some bushes. So this will protect your hands as you're riding. There's two kinds of handguards. This is a half handguard. And it's basically an ABS plastic, strong plastic with this particular one's got an aluminum mount that just bolts onto your handlebar. Offers some good protection, but not super rugged against hitting, say, a branch. This is more against some, let's say some brush, some cattails and stuff like that as you're running by. This is a full handguard, and there's two major differences. First of all, it's got two mounting points, mounts to the end of the handlebar and here in the center with a bracket, so it's more secure. Second, this particular handguard has a metal reinforcement inside, so it's really strong. You could hit a branch full speed, it's not going to damage. So it really protects your hands and your grip and your throttle. And this is the kind that is mounted on this bike right back here. We're looking at here is the finish and surface treatment. So you see this particular one, this is a matte finish. It looks like it was, they call steel peen or ball peen. It's shot with like buckshot, and to give you this like rough finish, and then anodized over it. So that matte finish, rough finish, will hide scratches and nicks, unlike right below it here. So you can see some others here. This is a similar finish. These guys, this is the opposite here. So this is a shiny high gloss finish. Generally, even in your photo, you can see it's in their photo, you can see it's already scratched. So we recommend you look for a matte finish, this sandblasted or shot peen finish. So first of all, there's a surface treatment. Most companies are doing either a sandblasting, or now they call it a steel peen. This is an interesting term. Like ball peen hammer. Peen means little dents. They use little tiny steel shot, like buckshot, and fire it at high speed at the aluminum, and you get this textured, evenly textured finish. Why do you want this textured finish? Well, it gives you, first of all, matte look versus shiny, which some people prefer, but additionally, it hides scratches and nicks better than a shiny surface. Shiny will show off your scratches and nicks. Also, it tends to resist fading over time better than a shiny surface. Then the next step is something called anodization. Handlebars are put through, aluminum handlebars are put through a process called anodizing or anodization. Anodization is an electrochemical process that hardens again the surface and also gives you these cool colors. But even there's different qualities of anodization. Some brands, the most basic type of anodization, use what's called a chromic acid that produce a thin, ductile layer, anodized layer on the aluminum part. Chromic acid, as I said, is thin and can chip or fade or scratch a lot faster than type 2, which is type 2 anodization uses sulfuric acid, kind of etches into the metal more, produces a thicker anodized layer, making it more suitable for long color fastness. Basically, the color will stay there longer, will not chip or scratch as easily. And then there's a type 3 anodization, which is similar to type 2 and also uses sulfuric acid, but it produces a thicker anodized layer that's even more durable. It's called hard anodizing. Now, another thing that separates all this process is color difference. Good quality anodization has an even, consistent color. There's no blotchiness, there's no fading. So you got your hardness and your color fastness. Now, a good quality, high quality anodization should hold up at least 2 years without any real, of course, if you hit a tree or something, you can scratch. But I mean, out in the sun, bright daylight, various temperatures, it's not going to fade, it's not going to chip, it's not going to peel. So high quality craftsmanship versus poor craftsmanship is going to discolor pretty quickly in a matter of even a month. So we're going to show you some real close-ups on some vehicles and show you the differences. Okay, and all the things that we talked about, from the performance manufacturing, the precision molding and compression process, the anodization, the surface treatments, even the markings we mentioned all along in this educational video. Things like hand guards and other accessories, and the way that, for example, this one has the end mounts here that you can mount a full set of hand guards like this. Well, let me tell you, there is one manufacturer. Their name is Rutu Powersports, R-U-T-U, and they manufacture for several brands, and you can find them all on Amazon.com, or most of them on Amazon.com. So all those features, remember, Rutu Powersports is a good source for all of them. And please like our video. I hope you liked it. Thumbs up and subscribe and follow us for plenty more to come. You might think the handlebar production process would be simple, but in fact, to produce a high quality handlebar, it's quite technical and complicated. And let's first talk about the materials that are used. We mentioned before, steel is generally in a low-end product, And we're going to focus on aluminum because a good majority of quality handlebars, all of quality handlebars out there now, are made of aluminum. So they start with a seamless extruded tube like this. This is a thick wall aluminum tube. And then it is sent through a bunch of extruders and dies. It's pushed through. And we're going to have some video footage here to show you how that works. Pushed through and then basically either reduced or compressed, and then later it's bent to get the shape. So how do they do that? Ideally, good quality handlebars use a cold bending process. Cold bending is an absolute necessity because if heat is used, and some companies use it, some brands use heat to bend pipe, bending with heat will sacrifice rigidity and cause weak spots to be formed. So cold bending is ideal. And the best method these days is a quality CNC bending. And what does that mean? CNC stands for computer numeric control. So you have a computerized system, automated system, that does the bending in precise locations at precise amounts of pressure and bend. So it is more accurate, it's more even, there's no crimping or denting, which will weaken the handlebar, which can happen if it's done by hand, unless you're like, super professional, like a Ferrari type guy making by hand. Most of the hand bent handlebars are going to have defects in the workmanship. So CNC, it's evenly bent, evenly distributed, the materials evenly distributed throughout the bend, and you get a more elegant bend, which means a stronger bend. Then the next thing we talk about is, you see this fat tube? It actually ends up as skinny as this by going through a process called compression. The tube is drawn through a counter die, which is kind of like a small hole it's pushed through, until it's compressed down to the final 7/8 inch diameter here. So especially fat bars, they start off with a fat diameter tube, and then compress down to get to the final 7/8 inch. So 1 1/8 inch ends up at 7/8 inch by compression. This also gives you a thicker tube wall, which again adds to strength. It takes several runs through dies to get this kind of even compression and to give you this super strength. Then the next step we're going to talk about is the finish. Okay, now we talked about how the handlebars are made, we talked about surface treatment and coloring. Now, how about accessories? Okay, let's talk about first here, crossbar. Now this is an all-in-one bar, it's been welded, this crossbar in the center. This is again for like a kid's bike or mini ATV. This is, let's say, one of the entry-level quality. Generally crossbars are like this. They can be attached or detached, and this is a CNC aluminum crossbar. Now, why do you want a crossbar or not want a crossbar? So, crossbars give you more stiffness and they help keep support between the two handlebars, the two hand grips. Some people like this, some people don't. If you don't have a crossbar, you can get more flex and absorption on bumps, so maybe less fatigue and less shock through your arms and your body. But some people like the rigidity and the stiffness of a crossbar. So it's again rider preference. Plus, with a crossbar, you can accessorize with things like this, which is a chest protecting pad. And even this is different qualities out there, but this pad will help, if you end up banging even your head or your chest while doing some jumps over some ruts and holes. So crossbars, crossbar mounting, and chest protector pads.